What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bleav in Hornets podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network. My name is Sam. I have Muggsy Bogues with me. Muggsy, how are you?
I'm all well, my brother. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing all right. I realized after we recorded our first episode, I didn't really introduce myself, but I just like, hey, I'm Sam. But for those who are wondering who the hell I am, my name is Sam Dracula. It's a weird name, I know, but when your real last name is Smith, you got to get creative on the internet. All Sam Smith, everything's taken online, so you got to switch it up where you can. Also, shouts to the Munsters. I have a YouTube channel covering the Hornets. That's kind of how this all folds together. And of course, a man who needs no introduction, Muggsy Bogues, the star of the show here.
No, I'm not the star of the show. Sam, I am the man is the star of the show, guys.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm a clip that and put that on my resume. I need that.
There you go.
Also, well, thank you all so much for coming through and showing support on episode 1. We're going to be here every week covering the Hornets, the ins and outs, getting Muggsy's expertise. We're going to have guests on to talk about the Hornets current and past. Very excited that this podcast and project is here. And so speaking of the podcast, what you're listening to now, we're going to get into the first 2 preseason games with the Hornets against the Raptors. We're going to get our first impressions of our guys. We're going to talk about the Raptors themselves and what to look out for with the remaining 2 preseason games against the Magic. Because disclaimer, we're recording this before the Magic games happen. So if you're wondering what's going on, that's what's going on. But another friendly reminder, if you like what you hear, tell a friend, subscribe, leave us a rating. It'll help the show, help the reach of the show, help us out a ton. And it'll let us know that you like what you hear. You know, you can't go wrong with that. You can find the show on iTunes, Spotify, on YouTube. Like, check us out. If you hear us, I guess you're already hearing us. So tell someone you like about the show. Make their day.
Just tune in. Basically what he's saying. Just tune on in. And come on and get everybody else to tune in too.
Yeah, don't keep the show for yourself, you know? But, you know, spread the love. So let's start. We got to start on a downer of sorts. The big free agent signing for the summer, or no, I keep saying the summer because I'm so used to the normal NBA timeline of the offseason. Gordon Hayward picked up a finger fracture injury in the last game. Fortunately, that injury seems to be a day-to-day type injury and he won't be out for a long stretch. So, Muggsy, what went through your head when you heard about the Gordon Hayward injury initially?
Well, of course, I'm quite sure I'm not the only one concerned, because of his history. He has a history of being injury prone. And here it is, when you give someone that kind of a contract and you're looking for him to be out there night in and night out. And when you have an injury that prevent that kind of concerns you. And luckily, that it's not as serious as, we won and that has been noted, but a finger is on the shooting hand. So anything, close to on that hand that dominant hand is always a concern for me. But again, we got in today's medicine world, they get us back on the court quickly. So hopefully that the Hornets, and I know they got a great medical a team over there, and they're going to do everything that's possible to get him back safely so he can join the team.
And what about the timing of it? Because I gotta, never played in the NBA, guilty, but like we're in the preseason, guys. They're trying to get ready for the regular season. It's a shortened season. What does this type of injury, being on the shelf for, let's say, a week or 2 weeks at the worst, how does that, what goes through a player's mind when you have that kind of setback? Because are you thinking at it like you have to start from zero again and go through your whole ramp up again, getting ready for the season? Does that interrupt your preparation for the season? Like, what are your thoughts on the timing of this injury and him getting ready for the regular season?
It definitely become frustrated because again, you've been sitting out and here it is, training camp just started and preseason was right around the corners as, training camp began. So, when you can't participate, it can affect your win, your conditioning, as well as the chemistry, especially being a new player coming in, trying to fit in with the guys. But luckily, again, it happened early during the preseason. It's not as serious, as they alluded to. And he can get back, probably a week or so the timing, but and luckily and gratefully that it's not his legs or anything of that nature where he can't walk through some of the things that they be going through on the floor. He can still participate in that regards because it's his finger. But again, it just kind of, it just frustrates you because you can't participate with the guys that you're trying to build this chemistry with.
Yep. And I thought, I thought we saw some good things from him when he was on the floor. Very confident on the ball. Like if he looked like a real NBA veteran out there amongst the younger players, which is super beneficial.
Absolutely.
One thing I want
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, one thing I want to talk about is like the atmosphere of these games because I was just I got used to the bubble. Like watching those games, you got accustomed to seeing the faces on the screens, the music, the noise. But like from like regular basketball to no basketball to bubble to no basketball again. Now to this COVID aware environment where different arenas will have different setups. I guess some cities are having crowds and like small number of crowds and some won't. What do you think of like the atmosphere at the Spectrum Center for these games with the fake crowd noise specifically?
Well, it's going to affect them in some way, but not as much as one would think, because once you get between those lines, it become what the goal is at the task at hand, and trying to put that together and go out there and put together the game plan that coach came up with. But again, when you're in the bubble, see, they had opportunity, as you mentioned and alluded to, when playing in the bubble, but they was playing on one court. They didn't travel, even though there wasn't no fans there. But now this is the opportunity where you're playing in your own arena. No fans. Some may have fans, some may not. But if you're home, but the Hornets, speaking of the Hornets situation, if they have fans in there, if they don't, you just got to really build off the teammates. And because you're used to hearing that sixth man get you going, we use that. That's the adrenaline for us in times where things are not going well. They could get us back into the game. So not having that, you got to rely more or less on your teammates and trying to find a way to overcome whatever negativity that's going at the particular time. But it also could be a beneficial because a lot of guys who are not used to playing hearing that heckler in the stands, because every arena has one, and that heckler could really be very voiceful and can get under your skin, and it can kind of affect your game somewhat. But you don't have to be dealing with that. So these guys ain't really worrying about that, and you can hear everything in the arena now.
Yeah.
You can hear everything in the arena. So everything's calling the plays out and everything. So it affects you in that perspective, but once you're between the lines, it's just hooping. The guys really competing against the other team, and hopefully that you can execute the game plan that the coach came up with.
Yeah, I got a kick out of like watching LaMelo. He would take a shot and he'll miss a shot, and then the Raptors bench would like start barking at him, and then LaMelo makes a shot, and then kind of looks over to the Raptors bench and like, yeah, what are you gonna say now? Like that element of like you mentioned relying on your teammates. You don't have that 10, 20,000 people arena of people. Like you have it's like you're playing to a much smaller audience with your teammates and the enemies on the other side. That's really cool. I got a kick out of that in the preseason. What would you think about playing in this where you can like, where the trash talk is like you can hear someone trash talk from across the court with like no interference from the crowd?
Yeah, we experienced that in the bubble with Rondo and Russell Westbrook, brother, down there in the bubble. But you're right, you can hear it when trash talk could take place. But I mean, that's part of the game, and that's something that every player gamed up for. But this is what we here to play, and that's what they're here for. Right now, the Hornets, Melo just having fun. He have an opportunity to try to, find himself. It's his NBA debut now, and he got 2 games under his belt. Feeling good about himself in terms of getting that now behind him and trying to, trying to gain the confidence and the respect of his teammates. And that's the beauty thing about preseason. You get to have mistakes and go through that. And at the same time, you're still trying to how I can get better and how I can kind of have impact for how I can have an impact for this franchise. because I was quite sure they're expecting that out of me.
Yep,
What
yep.
he's probably thinking.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And to that effect, right now he's not in the starting lineup, and which is
rightfully so.
Yeah, you had to earn your spot, and the Hornets have two really good guards right now. You have to really take the bull by its horns. To
which he can learn from, it's a good opportunity that he ain't got to come in and then not throwing him in the fire. He get an opportunity to learn behind two good guards, and Devontae, just a young guard within himself, but had the opportunity to learn behind Kemba Walker, one of the best guards out there. So now he's trying to, continue, and players, you kind of wonder, okay, well, why he playing my same position? Why would I want to help him? But that's just what we do. That's just teammates looking out for teammates. And because we all in it for the same purpose, the ultimate goal is to win. And I think if we benefit each other by helping each other, and I think that's what Devontae Grant and Terry Rozier understand, that because someone did it for them, and they're gonna, make sure they bring Meadow along the right way, and where he can have an opportunity to grow as opposed to just been thrown in the fire.
Yep, and we saw, you mentioned Terry, Devontae at the guard spot, and the seemingly favorited starting five. Gordon Hayward in the first two games. Cody Martin is replacing him while he's out on the injury. And then PJ at the 4 with Cody Zeller at the 5 seems to be the preferred starting 5 right now from Coach Borrego. And then with the second unit being the Martin twins, LaMelo, Miles Bridges, and Bismack Biyombo. Now, those last 3 names, LaMelo, Miles, and Biyombo, those guys seem to be meshing extraordinarily well. Like that Biz and LaMelo specifically. LaMelo seems to be looking out for Biz on the court. And Biz seems to be going out of his way to put his arm around him, and Biz seems to, LaMelo seems to be Biz's rookie, his mentor on the court, which is really refreshing to see that they're paying that close attention to LaMelo's development. And it's great for Biz because LaMelo's looking out for him. Biz can do things still on the court. He's no scrub. And so if you have a guy like LaMelo who's looking to basically, I'm getting at that. I think we're going to see the best Bismack Biyombo.
Well, Biz know how to get fed. Biz know how to get fed.
Yeah,
he know I'm limited. I know I need to keep my arms around this young fella because he's got an IQ that's off the chart. And if I just move and get into open space, he's going to find me. So I got to make sure that I keep him feeling good about himself. But that's a good thing what veterans do, bringing them along in that way. And he's going to help Biz tremendously because Biz is a guy that runs the floor. He's athletic. He can play without the basketball. And of course, he's limited with his offenses, but right around the basket, one pass and a dunk, that's all you need, and that young fella seemed to be doing that. And it's going to be up and down for him. But right now, he's finding a way to have a pick and roll chemistry with Biz because he's able to get into the lane and the guys got to help, and he's able to find Biz, with a spectacular pass thus far. Of course, he's going to be scouted as they go further into the season. So teams going to take away, his strength and make him play towards his weakness more so. So he got to understand that going forward. And hopefully, the guys around him can point those things out so we can minimize some of those mistakes, so he can really have a pretty good season.
No, definitely. And LaMelo looking out for Miles, we got a lot of highlights in 2 games. Yeah. Even that first game where LaMelo didn't score, which is totally fine. He had 10 rebounds. Deal. If you want to grab 10 boards and not score any points, I'm cool with that. I'm not mad at that at all.
Well, that's what a point guard IQ. When you got a high IQ, you got to understand. Sometimes we don't have to score in order to take over a basketball game. You know what I mean? Because we understand the pace of the game, we control the tempo, and we know how to get others around us involved. And he understands that. And but that's the process that he's going to have to go through with the shot. But I'm not even worried about the passing ability and the understanding of the game because he knows that. He has that. It's a matter of the growth of having confidence in the shot, having understanding, not get so caught up and have to take in that shot, because you can get demoralized and your confidence could go down when people are expecting you to do certain things and you trying to fill their expectations, where you got to let that be a process in your game. You got to let that evolve and you got to stay to your strength and keep bound that, more so to where the negativity, oh, the positive outshine the negativity. And I think he will understand that. And I think the coaches will give him that understanding as well. And he can have a pretty, impactful season with the Hornets.
Yeah, and then I think it goes back to what you mentioned before about him coming off the bench, at least initially, where you can only you put him in positions to succeed. And if you feel like it's not working, rather than having his confidence get knocked, you take him out, bring on the vets, and they can handle things until LaMelo's ready again. Like, there's a really good dynamic, I think, there with the guard spot and a depth that will be really helpful with these this compact season with a lot of games in a short period of time.
And that's what coach is trying to do. And, trying to find out what he has, how many bodies he can use, what type of rotation that he's going to be available for him. And that's what you use the preseason for. And so I'm quite sure that's what he kind of going through, putting different units out there, seeing what works, and so he can make that ultimate decision.
Yeah. And speaking of decisions, we're seeing PJ play on a kind of a new spot on the floor at the 5. It seems to be very specific depending on the other team's lineup. Right. It didn't seem like, because like Aaron against the Raptors, they really have Aaron Baines. It was like they're big, I guess. Like at one point, Miles started at the second quarter of the first game, I think, at the 5, and at that point, the biggest guy on the court for the Raptors was Siakam. So like, as a fan, I'm like, okay, cool. We're not going to get tore up inside because all he has to do is guard Matt Thomas.
6'10", 6'11".
Yeah, but he's like more like a perimeter guy. Like I don't see him posting up. So I think one of the Martins was actually guarding him. But
yeah, he was.
I love the confidence out of PJ first of all. Like his ability to grab a board, bring the ball up, and shoot a shot. Like yes, give me more of that. Yeah. I'm a huge PJ fan, and if his confidence is sky high, I think he's gonna only continue to get better. And I think we're seeing that thus far in the preseason, regardless of what position he's playing.
Yeah, I'm a PJ fan too. I was one of the one that told them they should take him, when he was available at 12, and he hasn't, disappointed me since. And he can have an opportunity to kind of start to put a stamp on some things with his game, playing the 5 position. But it's going to be challenging. It depends on, as you mentioned, some of the teams that he matches up with. But his confidence is sky high right now. He believes he can knock down that 3. He's shooting it pretty confidently. And that's going to bring the bigs out close. And then he also have the ability to put it on the floor. So that's really going to, continue to build his confidence. And I like that opportunity with him playing the 5 and Miles and Melo pushing it. And you got the 2 guys out there shooting. We can get away with that at times. And I think that could be some exciting basketball. When you get an easy basket, a lot of excitement, like electricity, take place, on that floor when you're out there, operating in that regard. So I like that. And that's what coaches, he's going to be afforded with, having that type of availability with these guys. And I think that's what he's trying to find out, who's going to be there, what my rotation is going to look like, and how we, when the opening of the season starts.
Well, you mentioned like pushing for PJ out of college in the draft. What'd you see out of PJ at Kentucky that you thought would translate over to the NBA? And is it panning out as you expected?
Well, for one, the latter part of the season, his confidence in shooting the basketball, he was really starting to come into his own. I started the versatility and then the availability who was there during the draft. And a lot of them was talking about, Archie Moore down in Washington, but I really had my eye on PJ because I think what the Hornets needed at that time and what was in the draft, it wasn't that deep, but what they had in the draft, and his, still being available at that position, I think that could be a start for them in terms of what the franchise could look like in the future. A guy that has a lot of heart for one, who ain't backing down from nobody, but brings a lot of versatility and has a lot of upsides to his game.
Yeah, I did a video on my channel, I think it was like the spring, just rewatching Hornets drafts and just listening to what the commentators were saying about the rookies. And you watched what like Reese Davis and like those analysts were saying about Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, and PJ Washington. All were these guys were overlooked and had like from one year to another year in college really shown that they can add to their game and and make a serious leap. And they all three of those dudes had the same kind of theme about them coming into the NBA. And then with the benefit of hindsight, seeing these guys get better in the NBA, like you see that common trajectory. They went from point A to point B in college. Now they're in the pros. They're going from point B to point C to D, like that constant like upward trajectory. To see PJ in the starting lineup. Well, first off, to see PJ like what he drained like 7 threes in his first NBA game.
Yeah,
and then fast forward a year later to now, where he's in the starting lineup, being relied upon to do multiple things, speaks a lot about him as a person and as a player. Like, I'm very excited that he's part of the franchise and to see where he goes as a fan.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they all had a different journey. And of course, with Devontae, had to go hit his route to get to where he is in terms of being a two-way player and now growing and having PJ and Miles. Of course, that kind of, we got that little relation with one another, all three of us, being drafted number 12 and overall. So I kind of always have that little trivia for me. They don't even know about that. But that's something that I always talk about, the 12 players been selected in the draft. But you can see and it was expected for these guys to be this, to grow into the players that they starting to become. And that was the game plan. That was the vision when they selected these guys, knowing the upside they have. And so that's the beauty of it. And they good individual, they good characters, and you're creating culture as well when you select type of individual, such as Miles and PJ and adding like a Devontae, there you go, and a Devontae Graham to the mix. So, when you got that type of core under your organization, now that's where you build from. And that's what they've done, adding a guy, a piece like Melo, Gordon Hayward, and even the kid Jalen McDaniels, who people don't talk much about. And I really like his upside because he really stretches the floor. He could put the ball on the floor as well. And he played defense. And having that length and having that ability, it just gives you so much versatility. And I think his confidence too is starting to grow. So I think he's looking for more opportunities. And I think when he do get it, he will really, showcase what he's all about. So I'm excited about this upcoming season. I really am, because of things that's happened, the way they put it together, got rid of some of the guys in terms of contracts and some of the pieces that just didn't fit. But now you got pieces that fit, and we're going to try to see how that puzzle come together.
Yeah, and we got to see our players tested against the Toronto Raptors, a very, very good team. And in each of those first quarters, the Hornets outplayed the Raptors. When it was largely starter for starter. I know the Raptors were without Kyle Lowry, but we took it to them. The Hornets took it to them. And, the games, went away, like the Hornets through turnovers and free throws, what have you. Like the Raptors are really good. They made their runs and they won each game. But I know that stuff is hard for me, at least. It's hard to like wrap my head around, because it's not, we rested our starters at some point. They rested their starters. It's not like how much weight do you put on a win. But I thought our guys played very well for the most part in those games. Turnovers aside. But that will come, right, as you go through preseason.
The first game, you're going to see sloppiness, especially when you got a short training camp and you're rolling right into preseason. So you're going to see a lot of sloppiness. That's to be expected. But again, it's preseason. You said that they jumped up on the Raptors, and the Raptors, they championship pedigree type team. So, they just trying to find their way, getting their, feet under their feet under themselves and trying to gain their conditioning and so forth. Just like the Hornets as well. But you want to see what the Hornets want to see what they have, because you have so many things, so many new pieces that you want to find out about. The Raptors, they've been stable. They got guys that have been, on their roster for quite some time, even though they had some new additions. The kid Terrence Davis, who's playing lights out over there, as well as the kid Flynn. Flynn has been balling and, showcasing that, hey, Kyle Lowry, you out, stay out a little longer so I can get some more minutes, So, this is preseason. That's what that's what preseason is all about. Guys trying to, find their game, find their conditions, coaches trying to find who available, what's going to be available for me during the season, and who I can go for, and who I can count on.
Yep. And so we have 2 more games left to see what happens. Who emerges in those, who emerges, who regresses. Do we see Malik Monk get more minutes? We only saw him for a little bit in game 2. I know he's coming off COVID. He needs to take his time getting right. Because of the state of the roster, there's no real rush to get him involved. He can take his time getting his legs and lungs ready. But with the remaining games against the Magic, is there anything you're looking out for with the squad? How important is it to get a win out of these 2 games going into the season, or is it not important at all, given that it's preseason?
Yeah, well, I mean, every coach would definitely love to get a win. You definitely want to get a win because that game plan that you put together, it was successful. But if you don't, they always try to look at something positive they can take out of it. Whatever that may be, the conditioning, the chemistry, what we're trying to do offensively, defensively. And now we going into the season, we could clean all this stuff up. So they don't hang their stuff up too much on the wins and the losses. It's more or less a valuation process. And they're just trying to find out before the season who's going to be available, what we have, what type of defense, how defense is looking, how the offense is, how we executing on both ends, and then my rotation, who I'm going to go with. Right now, early on, I'm going to go with 10, 11, or right now I'm going to shorten it to 9. So, they're trying to figure out all that during preseason, getting ready for that upcoming season.
All right, yeah, I'm excited for it. I was very concerned as a cord cutter of my ability to watch these games. I missed the first 5 minutes of the first quarter of the first game because I AT&T TV Now was just hey, we're gonna show you some. What were they showing me? It was like a boxing event from I don't know when instead of the actual game until switched over. It was what? Don't do this to me. I know it's preseason for the networks too, so they got it right. Yeah. Game 2, flawless. I got to see Eric Collins and Del Curry do their thing in pregame. I forgot how much I missed those guys. Those are the announcers are so good. I love that energy.
I was watching it too. I'm about to go through the screen when I heard Del talk about Melo pass looked like Mark Jackson. I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? He said, good. I'm glad that Eric kind of corrected him and told him, no, it's more like a poor man Muggsy Bogues. Hey. Yeah. So I gotta let him know about that.
Yeah, shoot him a text. Watch it. I'm watching, but just send him the eyes emojis. I'm watching. Be careful. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode. We'll be back next week on December 23rd, the season opener. We're coming at you with our season preview. That'll lead nicely into the season opener that evening against the Cavaliers. So it's Fast and Furious coming up. The NBA season is finally back, and I won't speak for Muggsy, but we're here for it. We're so excited for it.
Absolutely, boy. I can't wait. This is the best time of the year for me. Basketball season.
Yeah, it's an early Christmas present, really.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have a Christmas game, so that's really gonna be icing on the cake. Sitting back and enjoying all the wonderful gifts that take place that day.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for checking out the Bleav in Hornets podcast and the Bleav Podcast Network, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later, guys. Appreciate you.